the fire, well, you place the flowers in the vase that you brought today. Staring at the fire for hours and hours while I listen to you play your love songs all night long for me, only for me. Come to me now and rest your head for just 5 minutes. Everything is done. Such a cozy room. The windows are illuminated by the evening sunshine through them. Fiery gems for you, only for you. Our house is a very, very, very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy because of you. La 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 very fine house with 2 cats in the yard. Life used to be so hard. Now everything is easy because of you. I'll light the fire while you place the flowers in the vase that you bought today.
Welcome to SpeakEasy. Today we're talking about spiritual scaffolding. I had no idea what scaffolding was when I got the idea of spiritual scaffolding. I thought it was the interior of the building, but as I looked into it, it is the structure that's on the outside of a building, and it's usually put up to help support the renovation of a building or the expansion of a building. So I was very interested in what Spirit might have to say to us about spiritual scaffolding. Now, at the very same time this week, we had a basement flood. I don't know if you live in the Chicago area, but we got a flash flood, and we got this basement flood, and we just spent hours, you know, just moving things out and cutting up old carpets and throwing things away. And there was this container in the basement of these old scripts that I had held on to of shows that I'd worked on when I was doing TV. And I don't know why I was holding on to them, but I think, you know, the universe asked the same question because it was just filled with water. They were all damp and damaged, and I was like, they're out. And then there was another container of these shoes. They were like these high-heeled, hoary shoes that I would wear sometimes on auditions, you know, or just for fun in my heyday. And they were all like warped and worn out, and they had to go. And it was a lot of work to sort of sort through and clear out all of this stuff. But to tell you the truth, it didn't really feel bad. It felt like a cleansing, like a baptism, like it felt right and good. And this was, for me, a bit of symbolism for cleaning out our foundation. In this case, it was the foundation of our family home. And along this week, I also heard this quote that I thought was really on point with where we're at. And it was from Picasso, that every act of creation begins with an act of destruction. And this idea used to frighten me. I'd heard this quote before, and the idea of destruction used to frighten me because the idea of destruction sounds like violence. But as I got older, I began to know that, you know, destruction is natural and needed. It's part of the creative cycle, and things must fall away to come back together. And there's a little death in every birth. And in some ways, we must destroy all that we once knew in order to move forward. Now, I've said before, in order to grow, you have to let go of all that you are and all that you know. And that's just a little ditty that I came up with several years ago, and I've hung on to it. I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like I've had many incarnations. You know, I feel like I've gone through many deaths in this lifetime. And I imagine that that's probably true for you. And although it seems unthinkable that we might eventually actually make peace with death and the endings and the landslides and the blank canvases, you know, the ashes that all must fall down, that this is actually a time for us to attempt to make peace with that. And besides, we have been here before and we will be here again. Maybe not exactly here, maybe not on such a universal scale, but we have each all been through these cycles, each cycle containing that stage that we get dressed down and that we get to let go, and that we come undone in some ways and unglued. And each time it happens, we get to that stage and we're like, oh man, like this is going to kill me. Like why is this happening? And we continue to forget that it's not just the cat that has 9 lives, you know, that we all get back up again. And if you go with grace through this stage of creation and evolution, it will be like you're in kind of an intense car wash, but you know the process is for you, and that you probably needed a good cleaning out and you needed to get some things cleared up a bit anyhow. And so you just make your way through this intense car wash. And if you go through this chapter with resistance, it feels more like you were just issued a spiritual enema, because shit just gets cleared out and it's not very comfortable. And if you've never heard the term spiritual enema before, that's because I just invented it. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Like the spiritual Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra is known for saying some interesting things, and one of his quotes really applies to today, and that is, the future ain't what it used to be. This pandemic has opened some doors for us, but it's also closed our doors and limited our lives in many ways. It's sequestered our smiles, and it leaves us feeling lonely and worried and starving for even an awkward hug. At this point would be a good hug. But it has also afforded us to settle down and to turn in and give us a new appreciation for those smiles that we don't get to see, and those hugs that we're not experiencing, and the hospital workers doing their bit, and the elderly. And it has forced us to look at things and forced us to figure out how to connect with each other, shown us that connection with each other is actually the meat in the sandwich of life that we are craving. And it's shown us that we've been and can be and continue to be ingenious on figuring out ways to grow through between the cracks and to rise up and to drop off dishes at people's houses and to, you know, do birthday parades down the street and to teach your grandma for the 50th millionth time how to use Zoom once again. And we're showing up and we're connecting despite the situation. We are social rebels. And it's not all been roses and sunshine. We had to really look and see if there's anything that will remain as we watch our old future just basically turn to dust before our eyes. And so much has turned to sand, and it feels like it's slipping through our fingers, and it can feel, yes, very unsettling and raw. And at the same time, there's something very beautiful about that open, raw state of being. There's something really beautiful about new beginnings, about getting to the bones of something, so invigorating about stripping everything down and releasing it all. And then just sitting in the question and taking time to envision a new future and taking care to erect the scaffolding to prepare for what is yet to be, and to plant the seeds for trees that we will never sit under, and to wonder what will be our legacy. And this is a death, but it's also a very pivotal point of growth. That's where we're at with our community. You know, things are coming down and undone, but we're people, this group specifically, are people who love to create and invent and deconstruct so we can reconstruct. You know, we're people who think, who like to pull things apart and inspect things and break things down. We don't take things at a glance. We like to get our hands dirty and move into things. So, you know, if anybody can handle it, we can handle this hour. We were made for this hour. We're the people who love to get to this point. I mean, even look at our movies that we love. Rocky and Rudy and Remember the Titans and Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, we love seeing the story of human nature that looks like we're losing everything only to find that we've gained everything. So the future ain't going to be what it used to be. That's for sure. I mean, when we go back, what will happen? Will our kids go back to school? Will we ever go back to work? Will we ever share a straw again? Will we ever shake hands without gloves? We don't know, you know? So at times like this, we get to honor that blank slate. We get to honor the mystery and the unknown. I had a client call me the other day and told me that she did go back to work, and when she went back to work, everything had changed, and half of her department is going to remain virtual, and some of her office mates are actually moving back to where they came from because they can live anywhere now. So they're moving to their family's place of residence, or they're moving to places that they've always dreamt of moving to. And she said, I don't know what this means for me. And I said, great, you know, after you make peace with the blank slate, and after you stop trying to romance what was, you get to decide what will be. What once was non-negotiable, where we just had to go along, get along, and move through these phases and agreements, now everything is up for discussion. And isn't that sort of exciting? But I'll tell you what it's not, what right now is not. What is not right now is it's not the time to try and step into the new and drag the old with us. And it's not time to attempt to step into the new and just throw another can of paint on the old problems and attempt to salvage old scripts and unwalkable shoes, because that's not going to work. All of that needs to be let go of. Everything that is being stripped down to the bones is giving us an opportunity to look at our underpinnings and showing and revealing what we're made of and what we're built for. Now is the time to ask those rudimentary questions, you know, and take a really good look at the foundational agreements of our lives. And it's always the same question, so it's pretty easy for us. It's, what are you afraid of? And it's, where are you withholding your love? You know, so if you study A Course in Miracles, it's always about forgiveness. Like, what are you fearing? And where are you withholding? And as we move into the new chapter, do we worry or do we welcome the consciousness that's currently reconstructing our world? Because this consciousness is so intelligent that it's shuffling our files faster than a Vegas card dealer. And our heads can feel like they're spinning as we reach for our hand and pray for a few lucky jacks. But let me tell you, luck is not going to get us there, because luck is so fickle. This is the day we're called to anchor into faith that God really does love us. And this is the day we're called to literally lay low all of our plans and listen to the vision of God. She has always had high hopes for you. You know, she's just tired of watching us struggle. You know, she has attempted to let us tie our own shoes, and we've taken the laces and hung ourselves, and then we go about, you know, trying to lasso the other shoelace to hang our brother. And it's just a whole bunch of misery, really. And misery loves company. And God is just done. She's willing to let us suffer for only so long before she steps in. So we get to lay low our spiritual 2-year-old mentality who continues to insist, I want to do it my way. I got this. And we get to let go of this. When we live in a world where children are starving, where children are being shot in school, you know, where we are more invested in maintaining our money than our harmony with each other, it's time to fold. That's time to fold our plan. And we need to fold into God's plan. No matter how tall you are, the scope of your vision has nothing on God. And it's God's vision that we want to be about and get about. And this is what it looks like when you don't have a vision and when you do have a vision. It's a little story that kind of shows us what it looks like. So there's this very wise woman walking the town, and she comes upon these 3 workers, and they're all doing exactly the same thing. They're all cutting stone. And she goes to the first worker, and he is sweating, and he is cursing the heavens, and he's got a Band-Aid on every single finger, and he is just making it look hard. And she comes up to him and she says, hey, what are you doing? And he looks up and he says, what do you think I'm doing? I'm cutting stone, duh. You know, and he's just so agitated and toxic that she can't even continue the conversation. And she moves on to the next worker. And the next worker is cutting stone, but he seems to be a little bit happier. And he's not, you know, completely in joy, but he's going along to get along. He's getting it done. And she says to him, what are you doing? And he says, oh, I'm cutting stone because we're getting a wall put up. I don't know what it's for, but that's what they got me doing. Then she goes to the third worker, And this worker seems to be completely lit from the inside out. He's got a twinkle in his eye. He's got a whistle on his lips. He doesn't even look like he's working. He looks like he's in total joy. And she says to him, "What are you doing?" He says, "Yeah, I'm cutting stone to build a wall because we're putting up a cathedral." And that's the difference between a vision and no vision. A major renovation is taking place in all of our lives. And we can act like we're just busting a stone, or we can act like we're building something audacious. And we get to decide, are we cutting stones or building cathedrals? We cannot hold back the winds of change. But we do get to decide how we will be in those winds of change. Will we be a scrap of old newspaper, just carrying bad news to broken people, being blown in the wind with the consciousness of a disoriented victim? Or are we going to attempt to at least settle down and tuck our chin and bow our heads and fold our hands and allow God to hold and fold us into a paper airplane and have the capacity and ingenuity to harness the wind and ride this out with grace? Do you believe that God loves you or not is the basic question of this inquiry. If we want to bring something more beautiful into the world, we must stay conscious and take the opportunity that this experience is offering us and listen to the deeper vision of the divine. This hour will change everything. That we know for sure. But we get to decide if this change will be for good. This is not a time for a cosmetic fix. It's an entire overhaul. And it seems perfect to me that in the midst of this refiling, we as a community have gotten to drop our walls and let the floor fall out from beneath us. And we're in the midst of taking the roof off and letting our reach be without limits. Even today, this is the first time that we're live streaming on YouTube. That's 2,000 other people that we've just invited into the conversation. That's pretty exciting. We're at the point of refreshing our commitment to who we're here to be. It's an exciting time to be creating together. But if this pandemic has taught us anything, it has shown us that we no longer need just good leaders. We need to be good leaders. We need to be radically honest and transparent. We need to be humble and open to seeing things differently and to seeing all points of view. We need to be encouraging each other where we see ourselves still learning and celebrating each other where we see ourselves succeeding. And we need to tap into the amazing resources that we already have at hand in this community. We have a community of sharp and shiny knives that in a lot of ways are still stuck in the package for safekeeping. I don't know what that's about, but what I'm saying today is like, come on out, because now's the time to be seen and heard and help us cut free from the old idea and carve this new vision with us. Because let me tell you, this new vision is hot. It's hotter than Cathy Richardson on guitar. It's a deep well of creative consciousness, and we're laying low so God can be bold. So now's the time to know yourself and your gifts and offer them up. And take time with your divine and ask, how can I be helpful to usher in this new consciousnness? This is a grassroots, hearts on your sleeve type of community. This is just a tribe that's walking with no safety net most of the time. Pretty much breaks down to 2 girls, a good book, and a well-tuned guitar. And that's our Sunday morning, man. And that's more than enough. We squeeze the juice every week and crush the grapes, and every week I get fed. And I think I speak easily for all of us when I say this is not the time to be the world's best kept secret, yo. And that is the first time I've ever said yo. You are the scaffolding, my friends. That's what Spirit wants you to know. You're the scaffolding of this community. We're leaning on each other and counting on each other to help each other rise up, to play your part, to share, to promote, to pray, to prepare for things to get real. And real, I mean in real in the most audacious way. If you've made a commitment to love, like I have made a commitment to love, all we got to do now is get out of the way and let love lead the way, and be sure to show up and play your part. And you know what that looks like already. As a conscious community, we're responsible for holding the high watch, not just for our members, but for the entire world. The world right now is panting and bucking and is in deep labor, attempting to deliver this new future. And we are not here to be laborers who cut stones and curse the sky. That's not us. That's not us. You are among the teachers of God, the midwives, the artisans. We're building this conscious and virtual cathedral, this big top, this Circus Soleil for the divine, this incubator for awesomeness. Who knew that we got to be lucky enough to be engaged in this conversation today? And although it's like nothing we've ever seen before or heard before, the future is safely held in the hands of the divine, and we have nothing to fear, only greater good to be revealed. She is on the rise, coming around the mountain. Love is a scaffolding that supports it all. And if we are willing to follow the thread of this love, it will provide a future that is beyond blessed and beautiful and beyond what we could ever even imagine. And that is not just the word, my friend. That is the call. I hope you hear it, and I hope that you answer.
Amen. Hey, women. And Gloria freaking hallelujah.
People.
Amazing. So this is another song about home, an analogy of home. And I think very apropos to the talk today. And I moved to piano, in case you're wondering where my guitar is. Ain't you lucky you got a home? You got a roof over your head and a warm bed and a silent built on stone. You got a key in your hand in your pocket, only you can unlock it. But the tears will fall in the silence when you're alone. Without love, this ain't never gonna be no home. Ain't you lucky you got a job? Maybe get a raise one day, so you work hard, force a smile and do your best. Just a needle in a haystack, but you're making your paycheck. But you know you can't get those years back. It'll never be your own. Without love, this ain't never gonna be no home. But you won't spend your whole life crying. Ain't gonna cash it in without even trying. For you know before love can never even begin, it must start from your own heart and radiate out from within. So ain't you lucky you got a home? Yeah, you got the sky over your head, and your bed is your bones. You got a father and a mother. You got billions of sisters and brothers. We must love ourselves and each other to be strong. Without love, this ain't never gonna be. You may want it to, it just won't be. Without love, this ain't never gonna be no home. Ooh, oh, no, 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 no. Ooh, oh, no home, no home, no home, no home. Without love, without love, without love, this ain't never, never, ever, ever gonna be no home.
Woohoo! Awesome.
Woo!
Thanks.
Cathy Richardson. That's an original, right?
Yeah, that's from Delusions of Grandeur, the greatest album ever made.
What inspired you to write that song?
I had just moved into the Chelsea Hotel in New York City. I had returned, I'd left Love Janice, the off-Broadway show, and I had come back to the show for the summer. And so they put me up in the Chelsea Hotel, which is where Janice lived when she lived in New York City. And also, you know, the history, everybody that lived in the Chelsea Hotel, artists, writers, musicians, it's just the energy in that place. And when I walked up the stairs to my room the first time, I noticed the marble stairs had been worn from all the footprints of people walking up the stairs. And I didn't care that it was a dump and I just had a hot plate. I was just like, this is so cool. Like, this is all I need. And that was where that song started from. And then obviously it went universal.
Oh my God, what an awesome story.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Story, yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, you have more than filled those footsteps.
Thank you.
Yeah.